Hello and welcome everyone. As folks continue to join us, my name is Will Torres. I'm one of the admission officers at Stanford Graduate School of Business. Welcome to Diversity and Leadership, Connect with Community. This is one of our very special panels that features some of our global interests and social clubs. So tonight, here in Palo Alto, maybe daytime, wherever you might be tuning in from, we are featuring the Greater China Business Club and GSB India Club. So really excited to have our panelists here with us. So with that, we can start with student introductions. If we could do name, what you were doing before the GSB, and what do you hope to do after? So maybe David, if we could start with you, please.
Sure, thanks, Will. Hey, everyone. Thanks for joining us from all these very diverse places. My name is David. I'm from China and Singapore. So right before this, I took a slightly, unconventional path. So I was a media entrepreneur, and then I was a consultant, but I was focusing very much on startups during my consulting days. And then I worked at a fintech startup focusing on microfinance. And after the GSB, I'm looking at either going to VC or doing my own startup.
Nice. Thank you. Chanchal.
Yeah, hi, I'm Chanchal. One second, just 1 second. I have some special friend join in. Yeah, sorry about that. We had some hiccup in her joining from her computer. So, sure. I'm Chanchal. I'm from Jaipur, Rajasthan in India. Before GSB, I was working with startups like Ola Cabs and Zilingo in product and data roles. And post GSB, so this summer I worked on my startup idea, and if all goes well, I'll likely be working on that post GSB. And here's my roommate, Monil.
Hi, I'm Monil. I'm also from India. Before GSB, I worked in investment banking and then impact investing. And over the summer, I worked, I did a split summer. I worked in consulting and then I worked with a startup back in India. And I'm looking to go back to the impact space, either in the startup or impact investing role.
Nice. And then Alokik.
Hey everyone, thanks so much for joining. Thanks, Will. I'm Alokik. Delhi is home for me in India. Before GSB, I was an entrepreneur in India in the digital healthcare space. Post GSB, want to continue being an entrepreneur and hope to start something soon.
Nice. All right, so just to get us started, if we can learn a little bit more about your organizations, knowing that, David, still early for you, but really excited to hear how you came to join Greater China Business Club. For those of you in the audience, if you have questions for our panelists throughout, please feel free to go ahead and put them in the Q&A. We're definitely going to be tapping into that later on and even throughout the session as they arise. So David, can you please start off and tell us a little bit about Greater China Business Club?
Sounds good. Hey, everyone. So I've only been at the GSB for 2 months, but my connection with GSB and also with the Greater China Business Club started several months ago. So right after I got in, I started getting a lot of calls from alums, from students, and people were just extremely sociable and just super excited to meet me and also meet some of my classmates. So the Greater China Business Club reached out very early on to try to bring you into different WhatsApp, WeChat groups, connect you to people that worked in similar places or wanna they have more experience in places that you want to get exposure to. So I just felt pretty intimate and felt very close to this community even before I got to the GSB campus. And overall, I think it's a part professional, part social club. So on the social side, we do events, we invite speakers. There's just so many incredible events. I did an event yesterday with the president of MasterCard Asia. I think people love food as well, so we try to do food events as much as possible. I think maybe with COVID it's a bit harder, but my sense is that in a usual year there's a lot of food events. And on the professional side, I think there's quite a lot of things going on with alums. So GSB alums are super tight. They really enjoy the GSB experience and they take any opportunity to come back, reconnect with current students and all that. So we do that quite a bit. And also we do like more professional talks, and there's some recruiting events as well. So that's my very brief experience.
That sounds like a lot for just a few weeks on campus. So that's pretty exciting. For Chanchal, Monil, and Alokik, can you please tell us a little bit about GSB India Club? And there is a question already about maybe what's the best thing for you, knowing that it could be very different for different people. So go ahead, tell us about the club and what's your favorite thing about it?
I can kick us off. So I'll start with the club and then let everybody sort of give their take on the favorite thing. The purpose is we want to connect everybody at GSB, Indians, people of Indian origin, and anybody with an interest in India with things that are going on back in India. And so we look at it in three different ways: social, cultural, and professional stuff. In terms of social, I think we really try to build a community. When I came in, it was already like a biggish group of MBA2s who were already from India or were just interested, and it was just we had small group dinners, we celebrated festivals with them, and so it was just very warm, and it made it very easy to sort of settle in. So we hope to continue that with like events for community members, small group dinners and things. The next one is cultural. So Diwali is coming up. I think Will's pointed it out a couple of times. So we're doing even in COVID, we're able to do a lot of food takeout. We have a surprise gift for people. We're doing something on Zoom. We do this for Holi. We do things in yoga, dance sessions that everybody can join. So just a lot of cultural engagement. And finally, on the professional front, we have a lot of SGDs with SGDs are small group dinners. Sorry for anybody who didn't know that. But we do dinners with professors who work on the region, alums. I think David mentioned it. There's a very active alum community, Indian diaspora as well as people back in India. So we have them come over often, and then we also have a lot of speaker series that happen. And this year we're also partnering with a couple of other organizations at Stanford. I'll stop there and I'll let Chanchal and Alokik talk more about the favorite.
Yeah, it's difficult to pick one thing that's favorite, but so far I think I've enjoyed our Diwali celebrations in terms of cultural stuff and just the community. I think this community was the first one to make me feel at home even before I got here. Like there was this WhatsApp group where I could ask questions like, "Hey, so where do I buy bed sheets from?" Because I can't carry them with me, and I needed to have them on day one. So just the community is so beautiful, and Alok, I'll let you chime in on the professional stuff, but otherwise I would just say I like everything about this.
Yeah, I think just to like add, I think I relate a lot with what Monal and Chanchal said, but just to add, if I had to kind of give one word, a sentence for what the India Club is, like the India Club and the Indian community at general at GSP feels like family rather than a club or a community. So it's like a group of us together who are like family, like we can go to each other's room, get like chai whenever we want, like celebrate whatever we do. And the interesting thing about it's not only the India Club per se, like even before we came to Stanford, like alums in India called us over to their houses and just like treated us as if we were part of some like family and not rather like a community or a network, like not a very professional, very I would say like less professional setup. So I think that's the best thing about the India Club. It's like a family away from home.
And then David, in your first few months here on campus, what are any favorite moments for you with Greater China?
There has been quite a few good moments. I think a lot of it is what Alokik just said. A lot of it is like just in the daily stuff, right? Having this community that's always there. It's like just today I needed to like get something for like contact lens, and I just like ping the group, and I don't ever feel like I'm ever gonna be judged. And it's just like a community where people, like 3 people reply me within half an hour saying like, hey, I have it, just come to my room and get it. And I think that's sort of like and even like an hour ago I was trying to get some advice on picking classes, and like you just write a question and people are like, hey, do you want to call 5 minutes from now? So I think maybe it's less about some particular experiences, but more around that sort of like ongoing community and just sense of belonging that I think most of us have mentioned to different degrees here.
Robert, are you there? Can you hear us? All right, we have another panelist who will be joining us shortly, but
yes, Will.
oh, awesome! There you are. Hey, Robert, can you go ahead and please?
I'm so sorry. I had to.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi. Are you in a moving vehicle at the moment?
Are you in a flight?
My connection is not very stable.
Well, either way, thank you so much for going out of your way to join us tonight, knowing that, you know, situations are all over the world, like literally. So can you please introduce yourself, what you were doing before the GSB, and what you hope to do after?
Sure. Because I'm on a train, so I will just shut down my videos so that the connection is a bit better. I'm so sorry about this.
No
so
problem
hi,
at
everyone.
all.
It's Robert. I'm currently MBA 2 at GSB. Before GSB, I worked for Facebook China, so I was managing the ads business in Mainland China, but most of them are in Beijing. I was based out of Hong Kong, and post GSB, I'm actively looking for opportunities to start my own companies. If that doesn't work out, I will probably join a VC in China.
Nice. It actually sounds like there's a lot of the spirit of entrepreneurship coming out in multiple ways here. And that's a question that's coming up a lot in our Q&A box. So I figured if we can just go ahead and go there. As you think about for our MBA 2s, some of the things that are helping you explore entrepreneurship. And then for David, our MBA 1, what are some of the things you're looking forward to as you're considering your different career options? Can you talk about some of the resources that the GSB has to help entrepreneurs?
I can start, unless Chanchal wants to. I should go. Okay. Yeah, so I think the resources in general which GSB has are multitude. So one is obviously the academics part of it. The other is like classmates and like who and professors, etc., who we can get to know. And the third is really like the community outside of GSB, which includes alums or people access which we have. And then there are like these other things like the I think Chanchal, since he was in a program, can talk about this much better than me, but in general about the Stanford Venture Studio and things on campus, etc. So if I start with academics and the kind of courses which we have, so they're divided into two. Like we have so many courses which just teach about like entrepreneurship cases, looks at a lot of like ex-entrepreneurs, how they went through their journey. Right now, I'm in one called Formation of New Ventures, which talks about different types of entrepreneurs, different kinds of structures, which is super interesting to know as an entrepreneur. And there are a bunch of other ones. There's this entrepreneurship and venture capital. There's angel and venture financing. I mean, almost anything related to entrepreneurship, you will find a course focused towards that. The second type of courses which are very interesting are experiential courses. And here what we have are courses like Startup Garage, which is like a typical GSB course in which a bunch of us are right now, wherein you actually work on your idea every week, just go start with the concept, and by the end of the course kind of have a prototype in place. So it's super experiential, very like GSB, you work very closely with GSB alums who have built businesses and know about stuff. So that's primarily around the academics part. I think a great part of building anything or entrepreneurship in general happens with a lot of classmates which you have. So for example, I was trying to figure out things in medical devices and trying to work something there. All I did was post on the Slack channel in the healthcare Slack channel of our class, and I just got connected to 5 people who worked in medical devices who knew the industry so well and were able to quickly give me an overview of what this thing is. And that's true with professors. Like professors by far at GSB are like so well connected, know everyone. It's just phenomenal. And then I think to talk more about like Venture Studio and other like more like outside of class and social kind of thing, I think Chanchal is a much better person since she did the Bothach and summer internship, and I would pass it on to her.
So over the summer, there's this new program that got created last summer, and you're the first batch to go through, which is called Botha Chen Summer Entrepreneurship, where we had one alum sponsor 24 teams of MBA2s or to work on their startup idea. It was super unstructured in the sense that we had all the freedom to do what we wanted to do, but structured enough that every 3 weeks we had to give a presentation to keep us accountable and make sure we were doing this. And at the end of it, we got to present our ideas to a bunch of venture capitalists, and we got great feedback. Some of us, were offered for further conversations if we were interested in raising any funds. So I think that was super helpful. In fact, also that program also provides you a mentor who is in the industry that you're working in. And it's just amazing to see someone who is currently building a hot startup in that space talk to you every 2 weeks, give you feedback on anything and everything, connect you with relevant people in the industry again. And I think it's as good as it gets anywhere in terms of entrepreneurship resources.
Yeah, Chanchal, for the internship, were there any like aha moments that you've had over the course of it?
Yeah, so we had a first check-in with Rule Botha, and for context, he's like the MD of Sequoia, managing partner of Sequoia US. And I had in my mind that, there's one thing that I wanted to try out. And I was like, maybe we can add blockchain in the problem that we're trying to solve. And so how do we find out whether that's going to work out or not? And the night before, we were like, sure, let's put it in the presentation. Let's see how he reacts. And based on that, it'll be a good estimate. And so we just did that. And he quickly gave us a bunch of feedback on, I think these are the things that are working well. And it was just so amazing. Otherwise, for us to get the same things done, it would have taken us a long time, to talk to a lot of people. But he has clearly seen a lot of startups in this space. So that was very efficient at the very least.
Nice. And David and Robert, how do you want to explore your entrepreneurial interests?
Robert, do you want to go first?
You can go first. You can go first.
Oh, okay, sure. Yeah, I think for me, I'll put it broadly under two categories. One would be like the very structured and formal type, and one is really like the more organic, informal, spontaneous type. So I think the more structured one, I think Alokik Munir has mentioned it, like there are a lot of classes. There's some of the more famous ones are like Lean Launchpad, Startup Garage, very structured stuff where you take a class and you get a credit for starting a company. So, and you have like people who mentor you and all that. There's also like a lot of talks. So if you want to know more about food tech, if you want to know more about ad tech, fintech, there's just like a lot of speakers and events. So I think that those are the more structured stuff. I think for me, I really enjoy the more unstructured stuff. So one is just like talking to classmates, because I think even within the GSB, within the same class as you, and if you're taking like, the class above or below you, and if you go beyond the GSB to other parts of Stanford, like there's always someone around on campus who knows some geography super well, or some industry super well, or some type of problem super well. So you can always find someone that you can reach out to. And there are a lot of like cool initiatives like team formation and all that. So we can just put your name and you can either find people to talk to and form teams with, or people reach out to you. So I put my name there, and some people have reached out. And then the last thing I would say is that to the point of like the more unstructured stuff, like just being in the heart of Silicon Valley, this is probably the best place you can be. If you want to do something VC, you want to work with a startup, like they're all just right next to you. So for me, one of the areas I want to explore is education and future of work. So I just like paying one of the VCs here called Our Ventures. They're probably the biggest VC in the education space. And like someone there who's a GSB alum would just like talk to you and sort of create a program around your interest. And that's to me just like pretty incredible. Yeah, so that's my experience.
The future of work sounds like it must be so fascinating right now. Like it's on top of everybody's minds. That's amazing.
I know, I think so. I think with Zoom and just, I think we're all gonna work in a very different way. So it's a
Yeah.
topic I'm quite excited about.
And it sounds like all of you are kind of at the forefront of that with like some of the things you're exploring and like the advice and guidance that you're getting. I'm so excited for you and everything that's going to come down your path. Um, Robert, was there anything you wanted to add there?
Yeah, sure. So actually, I think my approach is a little bit different because I know I will come back to China. Actually, I'm in China right now because of the COVID. I think GSB is a great platform for me to start with, but it's not the only resource you will end up with, right? So I got connected to a lot of great resources because of GSB. For example, I'm working with a top tier VC in China. The founding partner was a GSB alum, and actually he was based in Palo Alto. So 2 months into our GSB experience, he took us out for dinner, and get to know us, things like that. After that, because of this resource, I was connected to many other people, and I think that's the iteration. I repeated for many times. You get to know some people, and through them you get to know some other people, and it's going to be a widespread network out there. I think GSB really gives you this kind of vibe that because of Silicon Valley and Stanford, a lot of people are thinking about this, right? But your idea, your path is unique, so you really need to find the resources you need, and GSB is definitely the starting point to get you there. But in the end, you realize many people you get to know are not related to Stanford at all. But because of Stanford, you really have this platform to get reintroduced to many people. Yeah, that's my 3 cents.
Nice. There's a couple questions here on like the international experience and then coming down to like how like your cultural background has impacted life on campus. So maybe if we can zoom down that way, can you talk a little bit about your experience like as an international student? What are some of the things you're considering, including like how are you approaching like post GSB life, thinking about work visas, where in the world do you want to end up? What resources are you using to help you approach that? So pretty open-ended.
I can take a first stab at it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wait, Chanchal Monal, were you going to add something? Okay, so Will, can you just say the question one more time? So it's like, how do, yeah. Can you
the experience for, as an international student coming to the GSB, what was that like? And then as you're thinking about, post GSB, how are you approaching that, knowing that there's things like visas and potentially OPT? What are some of the resources that are helping you kind of figure out what comes next?
Got it. So I think like as an international student, the first few weeks, I think for all students, not only international, but even for people who are here, the first few weeks tend to be a little overwhelming just because you're suddenly meeting so many students and you're just like you want to meet everyone, but there's so many students, you're trying to understand how academics is and everything, but it just takes some time and then you get used to it. I think for me personally, having like a lot of people who I already knew from India with me was really helpful early on, just talking to them, etc. I think with respect to your question about like, how do you find stuff? I think a lot is just reflection. I think GSB is a great place where it really forces you to think about the why in life for a lot of questions, both like professional, non-professional, etc. And I think that's just having more time and constantly questioning the why is a great way of just understanding your motivations, etc. better. In terms of more like tactical where you want to be, etc. and visa things, in fact, me and Chanchal were this week with CMC session, which was specifically for if you want to be an entrepreneur after GSP as an international student, what are the visa options here? And in general, I think there's the OPT, which guarantees you, I don't know if it guarantees you, but you can work for a year on that and then extend it for two more years, since the MBA at Stanford is now a STEM degree too. So there's that, and then you can always apply for an H-1B. There's the O-1 extraordinary visa and other opportunities to kind of work even as an entrepreneur here.
Nice. I know that's a question a lot of folks have, because striking out on your own, sometimes you don't know what all of the support systems are. So I love that you're checking in with the Career Management Center. There's some pretty awesome people. David, so Alok mentioned coming to campus feels overwhelming. As one of our MBA ones, can you confirm that? How much of truth is there behind that?
No, I think it's like 200% true. Yeah, it definitely feels very overwhelming once you get here. I would say overall it's a good overwhelming in all fairness. Like there's just like so many interesting classmates you want to meet. There's like so many interesting events you want to go. But one thing I do feel as part of that is you just have to, and also to Alokik's point, it's like I think you have to reflect on who you are and what truly matters to you, because everything looks sexy and interesting and fun and shiny, but even for me, I'm as an MBA one, I'm starting to think about like, hey, what do I want to do professionally? Like who do I want to spend more of my time on with and all that, and that helps you to like sort of prioritize.
Nice.
I wish I had so much wisdom as David in the first few months at GSB.
No, I think I'm just I think for us it's just pretty overwhelming. And midterms are like, oh my God, time flies by so quickly. So yeah, it's more of a survival.
You're gonna be a GSB old timer before soon, so you'll figure out the ropes. Chantal, can you talk a little bit about how, like, your cultural background as an international student, or all of the different dimensions of who you are kind of influence the way that you might move through the GSB?
Yeah, for sure. So I moved to the US, or I first time came to the US to start business school. Right? I'd never been here, and I had hardly traveled anywhere else outside of India before. So coming here, first few weeks were especially all the more overwhelming for me, and I found it difficult to understand pop culture references. Like, I don't watch American sports, I don't watch a lot of English movies, I listen to only Bollywood music. So there were little things that I could talk to people about early on, when you don't know folks enough, and a lot of conversations are centered around these things. And yeah, I think it was hard. And with time, two things happen. A, you start to understand things a little bit. Now I know what's the difference between football and soccer and things like these. And also with time, as you start to understand get to know people better, you find out what things that you can talk to each other about. What are the other common interests that you have, which don't come up in the first attempt. And I find it one of the things that I really like at GSB is its diversity and inclusion initiatives. And if I can talk a little bit about that, so we have how do I explain this? So there is this. This is a mandatory curriculum for first year students, where you're put in groups of 7 to 8 to 9, and these are facilitated by second year students, and you talk about things related to like diversity and inclusion. A lot of things I did not know I learned. That was also a place where I could talk about how I was feeling. And I think that group made me feel also like I had felt at home with Indian community. I had felt at home with few friends that I was making, but at that place I could talk about where I was not feeling I fit in. And I think that helped others understand how people from different backgrounds are thinking about. And I also became more conscious about other folks in the group who could be feeling similarly. So that was a good learning experience for everybody, all MBA ones. So we started incorporating what we were learning in those sessions going forward with our classmates, and I think that just helped everybody feel at home better.
Just to add one, I think Chanchal is one of the leaders of the pod that she was talking about. So she's giving back. Just outside of this, there's a lot of structured places, as Chanchal mentioned, like pods, which help you, get up that learning curve pretty soon. But over time, I think it can also be sort of an advantage because everybody comes to GSB or to business school in general, like, they are looking for diversity. We all want to learn from different experiences. And so, for instance, with Diwali, like we have 100 people joining us. There's like 5 people from India, right? So there's like a lot of celebration that we can share with people. I'm a part of the China Club, and that's not something I knew so much about, but there's events that I can join in. Chanchal has people over for chai, which is something different for them to experience. So once you come up that learning curve, there's a lot of ourselves that we're able to share with the community, and that makes it very special for me.
Well, no, you just mentioned being part of the China Club. I know for many of us, like you'll have like this hub of like maybe like some of the clubs that you find like first, and that's your first family, but a lot of you are part of many clubs. So I guess this is a twofold question. So one, what are some of the other clubs that you're a part of, and like, what are some of the things that you're talking about there? Um, and two, how do you balance your time between academics, professional, as well as like the social and all the involvement in the clubs? Any tips at all for our attendees or for each other or for me?
I'll let Alaka kick off.
Oh, wow. That's how you cold call at GSB.
You unmuted yourself. That's the fun.
No, I was just going to make a smart comment in, which was that join as many clubs as you can. You get a lot of free food for lunch. That's what my strategy is. First year, I guess, David, you wouldn't have experienced this, but I'm sure Robert, Chanchal, and Monal have experienced this, which is first year, almost every day, there was like a club event during lunchtime, and you just get free food there and an awesome speaker, and it was a great way to know about it. On a serious note, like answering your questions on what other clubs are there are a bunch of different clubs, right? From like identity clubs like the India Club and the China Club. Then there are like professional clubs like the Tech Club, Venture Capital Club, Entrepreneur Club, like a bunch of different clubs. And then I think industry focused ones like healthcare and a few. And then there are these like golf, wine clubs. And I mean, almost all of them are pretty like according to what your interest is. Apart from the India Club, I spent a lot of time around the Tech Club, the Entrepreneur Club, the Venture Capital Club. But what I basically had as a strategy was very close to like the free food and the lunchtime strategy. So you have every day 12 to 1 you have time, and I just used to go in for an event for any club, just sit there in the BBL, which is basically a brown bag lunch, wherein a speaker comes in during lunchtime and you go there, go in there and just listen to a random thing. So I remember going for random topics like blockchain, quantum computing, like food and agriculture club events around how plant-based meat is coming up, just random things. And that was just like a very interesting way to discover new things, which I had absolutely no idea about. So that's how I balanced like knowing new or exploring different things. And to your answer, Will, about balancing social, academics, and maybe a startup, I don't know who has that answer. I haven't met a single person who can answer how to balance these three things together.
That's fair. And I'm cracking up because there's a comment or a question in the Q&A box about besides cultural and food connections, but it sounds like the food is more like a vehicle where connections happen over. So it's as much about the relation that's formed around that. And for me, food is love. So it's kind of hilarious to hear it keep coming up as a theme throughout the week.
Yeah, just one more thing, and I promise not to take up more time. I think especially with respect to food, I think my highlight in the first year was this concept called small group dinners at GSP, which basically means that every week, students host a dinner, which you can either cook, you can order in, for which the student association kind of gives us money. Like everyone has like a $10 or $15 a person budget. So basically the school is paying you for having food with a small group of 9 or 10 people. And I thought like that dinner with 10 people wherein somebody's cooking food from their home, or they're just ordering in or going to a restaurant, was where I met so many people and had so many wonderful conversations. So that was at least one of the top highlights for me during my first year.
I would just like to add that I haven't been here for that long, but I've loved the small group dinner. It's one of the highlights I've had. I went for sushi making one like last week, and it was so bomb. Just want to second that.
And Chancha, I know you do some really awesome work with our Women in Management Club. Can you talk a little bit about some of the intersections there?
Yeah, I think Women in Management Club has been one of the clubs that I've been very active in, and so that club has a lot. Just to quickly first clarify, it's not only for women. There are a lot of males who are part of that club as well, but a lot of the conversations are around how do we close the pay equity gap for women in business, how do we make sure we have more women in business, and how do we share family responsibilities, how do we figure out maternity. And a lot of these conversations cannot be done just with women in the room. So we do have a lot of participants from our other male classmates as well. One thing that I love the most about WIM is the WIM circles, which is where you are paired with again 7 to 8 of your classmates and have a facilitator, and you meet once every 2 weeks over food again and talk about things that are either top of mind for someone, or you have a lot of facilitated conversations around how do you nurture certain relationships, how are you thinking about family planning, depending upon what the group decides. I think that group has because we see each other so often, and that group usually continues for both the years and not just for 1 year. Those have become one of my closest friends here at the GSB.
Nice. And then Robert, what about you? Any other organizations that have been like influential or really special during your time at the GSB? Okay. He may be in a low reception spot on his train shooting across Asia. So whenever he can join us, we'll be happy there. So question here, this kind of covers a few different themes. But given the shift, well, let's start pre-COVID. For our MBA 2s, have you participated in any like global experiences, and have any of them gone to like the greater Asia region?
Chanchal, do you want to, since both of us did exactly the same?
Sorry, I was answering a question on the chat. Aloki, do you want to take that up first?
Yeah, sure. So two things. So Chanchal and me were on so there's this concept called global study trips. So if we take a step back, every student at GSB has to fulfill what's called a global experience requirement, which you can do in multiple ways. You can do it either by doing a global study trip. You could do it either by doing what we call a GMix, which is basically an internship with an international organization. But the intent of that is that you kind of go out there and experience a new culture. So for me, after my first quarter, I think Chanchal and I both went to a global study trip in China, wherein we went to Shenzhen and Beijing and met incredible people there, founders of companies, venture capital funds, people working in some government places. And I think that was really nice for me to know about how China is and what's happening there. The topic was also pretty interesting around the intersection of artificial intelligence and how that's impacting jobs in China. And it was pretty good. I made so many friends. There was just 30 of us there. And secondly, like all of us, like Monal, Chanchal, me, were organizing the same global study trip to take people back to India. So we usually have 2 global study trips in India every year, wherein we take other classmates, especially MBA ones, there. So that's how things happened pre-COVID.
And a lot of this, not just pre-COVID, a lot of this is on virtually. It's not the same at all. But I'm right now doing an exchange program with China, and all the study trips are happening virtually to the extent that's possible.
Yeah. So with that shift to virtual, like what kinds of things are you able to do in that virtual environment to get to get some of that global perspective?
I can start with the STEP piece. I think so. STEP is an exchange program with Tsinghua, for instance, and I'll talk about the regular classroom stuff after. I thought what would be most valuable for me is the relationships, like getting to meet my peers from Tsinghua and building relationships with them, understanding what their life is like. And so that's still happening because I have a small group. We meet every week on Zoom. And so I've made 2 new friends, people I have on my chat, I can talk to, who are arranging like sessions for us, even virtually, with people that I want to meet specifically. So it can be very personalized. When you go travel as a group, it's hard to for me to have a conversation with someone and my Chanchal to have a conversation with someone else, but that's possible in the Zoom world. So it's, of course, I mean, it's not ideal, but there are advantages of being virtual, or being able to meet more people, being able to meet people who I'm not in the same city with. And they're definitely tapping into all of those things through the GST or the more structured global experiences. I think outside of that, it's just everything that's still going on as usual. So we have certain classes that focus on the international experience. We have a lot of just different people from different countries in our class, people who are right now, like Robert, who are taking classes from different time zones, and that just kicks off conversations that did not happen before when we were in the same place doing the same thing. So I think in a way it's encouraged more conversation about diversity. It's just happening on Zoom instead of in person.
You mentioned this really interesting concept of, in a virtual world, you're having some different conversations, and even the way you're connecting might be different, right? And so for those of you who likely are active in this right now, like, how has this changed the way you network and build like either community or relationships? Any tips for folks in the audience about how they might think about developing these meaningful relationships, given kind of the circumstance we're in, and today maybe some of David's interests, the future of work?
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about that. So I think, sure, things are hard to do virtually after doing a day full of classes on Zoom. Zoom fatigue is real.
Mm-hmm.
But whenever you are on a virtual event, I think that works slightly better. This might be a hot take, but this works slightly better than in person, because I remember seeing social events that used to happen in person. People of similar interests, similar identities would end up like hanging out together. In a big group, there would suddenly be small groups that would get formed, and you would see people are like similar-ish. And with Zoom, you're put into random breakout rooms. Now you are interacting with more people who are different than you would you otherwise would. And we have been doing talks virtually. For those of you who don't know, talk is like a GSB tradition where every week two of our classmates share their life story in a very vulnerable way. Like they share a lot of personal details that they otherwise would not. And I think because talks are virtual, many more people are able to actually join the talks, because there's no commute involved. You can join wherever you are from, and you don't have to come all the way to the campus. So sure, a lot of things are not translating good, but some things have definitely become better with Zoom.
I can also add my 2 cents. So overall, I think our MBA tools here have a better comparative experience. For me, I came here and it was completely like it was mostly virtual. Um, I think my sense is that given the choice, most of us prefer to have more in person. But I do feel like number one, this is also much better than like whatever I was experiencing before. And number two, I actually felt that there was some advantage that a virtual environment brings. So the first one is that in a classroom setting, so like to my passion about education, there's one quote I really like about online education, which is in the good old times, you only have a few people in the front row, but now in the Zoom setting, you can have everyone in the front row. You can kind of like put on gallery view and see everyone's face and even the chat. I think we found it quite lively so far, just being able to like clarify stuff quickly and all that. So it's pretty interactive. And I think some of the professors, not all professors have done a good job, but some of them have done a really good job in terms of adapting to the Zoom setting. So my first week here, we did a class called Managing Teams and Behavior. I think the MBA tools usually like I can see the nodding, people like it. And this year I think it was surprisingly good, even though it was in a virtual setting, because we were doing like team activities and reflections and sharing and all that, over Zoom. And it was actually done in a very, very effective way. So I really enjoyed that. And then the other thing I would say that's good about sort of the virtual setting is that in the past you need someone to like come to campus before you can see them, but now in a way you get to access like opportunities from across the world. So some of the actually MBA tools I've talked to, they might be in Brazil, they might be in China like Robert, or some of the speakers that we can bring onto campus or sort of bring onto campus. I think now there's just more flexibility to like talk to anyone. So that's something that I thought was quite quite a pleasant surprise as well. I think a couple of weeks ago, there was a talk in Stanford with Bill Gates, and then there's one with Eric Yuan of Zoom, and like every day there's something super interesting, and you can sit in front of your computer and listen to all these cool people. So I thought that was pretty exciting.
Go ahead, Alok.
Yeah, I was just going to add on to what David was saying. Like, I think even for classes, what we've discovered is because of the virtual environment, like for actually doing the cases, a lot more people are now open to come just because it's just joining a hour-long a call versus coming to the campus and doing that. So we've definitely seen even better speakers come who would otherwise not have been able to come because of time commitments.
Yeah, I've definitely been hearing about like the silver lining of that. And you actually put a really cool spin on that, David, about how instead of just a few people, like now everybody's technically in that front row. I've never actually thought about it that way before. And here's a question for those of you who are thinking, is anybody thinking about going back to India or China post-graduation? All right, so given that you're here or we're here, depending on where in the world you are right now, there's a question here about how have you leveraged either programming or informal resources to stay connected with your home markets and feel prepared to transition back?
I don't know if David is planning to go back to you. Do you want to start?
Sure. I feel like I'm the furthest away from going back and graduating, but I think overall my experience has been that the alumni community, number one, is not super big, but it's extremely tight and extremely well accomplished. And they're also just very happy to like connect you to other people that you want to speak to and all that. So they're very helpful. And I think for most of us here, at least the group that's here, we are sort of interested in tech and VC. And I think that's where there's just a ton of GSB alums in the space. Yeah, so I'm still thinking about it. I think, but pre-GSB, I used to work in Asia, places like China, Southeast Asia, and also used to work in SF. So I'm still trying to figure out like where do I want to spend more time longer term.
Yeah, I can add more to that. So I'm definitely looking to go back. And the caveat is I'm looking to go back to India, but I'm also spending a bunch of time in London for personal reasons. So I'm just talking about like moving outside of the US more broadly. And I would say there are two, three different types of things. So one is just the informal network. So the GSB network I found both, at least in my experiences in London and India, is extremely tight knit. So there are already a lot of people in India who I call up for any opportunity I'm thinking about, even if it was my summer and not necessarily India. So just a lot of advice that happens. I know there's a lot of support that happens in terms of recruiting, and then going forward, there's the VC network versus the entrepreneurial network. People find their co-founders there. People find their first investors there. People find LPs for their VC fund there. So it's not just the first thing you do after graduating, but it's sort of a longer term, like the people who become your core circle going forward in your career. Coming back more shorter term, I think there's a lot of structured opportunities to help you do this. And I want to talk about a few things, especially around like internships and summers and finding jobs. And two that I want to highlight are SEED and GMIX. What these are essentially summer internship programs. GMIX is sort of a global experience where for a month there's a lot of global opportunities that get posted. And if you're interested in trying something out, you can work. And people did everything from like top end hospitality chains to working with governments, like literally like the top government people in countries in Africa and all over the world. And then the second one is Seed, where you actually get, if you want to work for a younger startup or company, especially in countries like India where the pay scales might not match a lot of the financial considerations that you have, Stanford actually supports you to do that. And I think that's super. So I did a Seed internship. I wanted to work with a young startup working in agriculture, and I got support from Stanford. So it makes it very easy to find like new companies, go back without really taking a big financial hit. So wanted to call out like the sort of structured, and of course as a career management center, I want to call that out. So we have a few dedicated resources focused on internationals, and they provide a lot of one-on-one support. So Alokik and I were just in a chat with three people from the career management center who just asked about what are the people from India Club looking at, what are the people from China Club looking at for them, and then they build those one-on-one relationships and find like with those companies back in India if you're looking to recruit.
Yeah, I was talking to some of the folks in the Career Management Center. They love when folks are interested kind of broadly all over the world, just because I think for them too, it makes it really interesting to be able to help find new opportunities for our students. So we're getting close to the top of the hour. So I want to make sure we have time for this last question. So thinking back to like a younger you, so for David, that might have been last year. For the rest of you, it might have been a couple years ago, or maybe as you were starting your MBA program. If you can give yourself one piece of advice, what would it be? So I'll give you a moment to think about that. And then whoever is ready can go ahead and jump on and share.
I can go first and give others time. Can you hear me? Hello? Oh, perfect. I think for me, what I've learned in a circle going after all the first year is basically everyone's faced with this battle between following your head versus following your heart. And I think the head tells you you should do so many things, whereas the heart says that you want to do so many things. And I think what I've discovered is when you follow your heart, you just have so much more fun. So I think for me, if there was one thing which I would want to kind of know before starting GSB is that this place is so amazing. It helps you set you up for whatever you want to do. It just makes so much sense to follow your heart over your head. And I wish I knew that before.
I'm happy to go next, even though I'm pretty new here. One thing I would say is to be kinder to yourself. And I say that because like coming here, a lot of us are quite perfectionists, right? We want to get the best grades, you want to meet the most friends, you want to go to the most interesting talks and all that. And you just tend to overburden yourself, just, be too perfectionist, blame yourself sometimes. and don't have enough time to relax, chill, decompress, and all that. So for me, I think that's one thing I would actively want to do, just to be kinder to myself.
Yeah, to that, I would say we have this thing called Stanford duck syndrome, where, and which I think is like everywhere, it's not just Stanford specific, and especially like for all B schools, that's true. So wherever you're going to join next year. So what it is that on the surface, you feel like ducks are having the best time. They're just relaxing, but under the water, they are like constantly pedaling, right? And when you come to business school, first few weeks, there is just so much programming, so much socializing to do. You feel like you are the only one struggling, because when you meet someone, you ask them, hey, how are you doing? It's just, oh, I'm great. It's just amazing. So uh, you feel like everybody's life is just going super smooth and you are the one struggling, but it's true for everyone is struggling, and so feel free to talk about it. And just knowing that, I think for me it's more than even talking to someone about it, it's just knowing that everybody's in the same place. It's not just I who am struggling, just gives makes you feel better about it, and that you all will get through it together.
From my side, I think David said it best. There's just so much cool stuff. FOMO is real. That, but I'm very grateful to be here, and I'm trying to be very kind to myself.
Nice. And so, as you're thinking about business school and as you embark on those few years, it sounds like follow your heart so that you have the most, like you make the most of it, you enjoy your time. While you're doing so, be kind to yourself, because there's a lot of like burdens you can have on your shoulders, and know that you're not doing this alone. You're with other people. It's okay to share. We want you to share, and there's power in that vulnerability, because we're all in this together. So to all of our panelists, thank you so much for joining us today. For all of the folks at home, thank you for joining us as well. We are going to be ending this session. We have one more day of programming for diversity and leadership, and we'd love to see you there.